On the podcast, the real difference between National and Labor, and here's the best example tonight. The bidders have today been shortlisted. Fast Track is being used. The country's biggest infrastructure project is set to go. It is the new Northland expressway, and it's only happening because of a change of government. 10 years will be shaved off the build time, a massive undefined spend, yep, we know that, and it will transform communities, create jobs, save lives, and unlock the North. Labor's still opposed, screaming out for alternatives that don't exist. It's a smokescreen for endless reports and no progress. The Greens, well, they're in a tailspin. Also tonight, Dame Julie Chapman, KidsCan's boss, as it closes in on 20 years of providing lunch and all sorts of things in the schools. The long waiting list just grows and grows, and more schools are waiting now more than ever. So, is poverty ever going to reduce? What has got us here? So we'll look at that tonight. Welcome to the program.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, you're with Editor-in-Chief. I'm Duncan Garner. Good evening, everybody, and please subscribe. We do like that when you subscribe. Isaac, I've been away. Had a few days. Hit the wall last week. Got taken by an ambulance to hospital. So, man, I was crook. You know, I had this, like a body infection.
Wow, so you got taken by the ambulance. You were sitting
They were in my bedroom, and they said, it's time to go, mate. Yeah, it's not nice. Yeah, and when you get to hospital, it's pumped me with fluids and pumped me with antibiotics and everything. So, yeah, it was basically poison.
Damn.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, wow.
But
really?
I'm back, mate, so yeah, I know. But just having the ambulance and the staff in your bedroom telling you, a week after Men's Health Week, and here I am, not picking up any of the warning signs. I think I was exhausted or something. Anyway, we got through it. I know you're worried, mate. So just
did you think it was? Did you at any point think it was something worse? Did you kind of, you heard from Ty earlier this week?
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff earlier last week. Sorry, did you ever think it was anything worse?
I think I was denying that I was crook. I thought, I'll come right. I'll sleep this one off. I'll sleep this one off. I'll sleep if it's not well. And
Classic.
Nothing was going away. It was actually body was filling up with poison, basically an infection.
Wow.
So watch the signals. All the advice from the week before I ignored, like a bloody idiot. Anyway, it is good to be back. It's you wait for a few days and so much shit happens. Like the world changes. There's bombs, and Ethan Blackadder didn't make the All Blacks.
I know. Oh, don't get me started.
I know you're Christchurch, man. This might wind you up, but Ethan Blackadder should be in the All Blacks.
Oh, man. He played so incredibly well. I mean, obviously, you can't just take the actions of one game, but like the Super Rugby final, he was insane. He played so well. I mean, you saw it on him at the end of the game. We won't go on for ages about this, but he was practically at the end of it wearing a brown jersey when everyone else was wearing a red one.
I know, his limbs were hanging off. I mean, he was like me in hospital. And
he played
I don't know
good.
how could you not select him? I mean, there are other better players, I suppose, but if someone's going to give something, if you want someone to, if you need a hard man in your team to sort some issues out, I would have thought that's your guy. But anyway, the selectors will know more than we do. So I just think that he's a bit of a Christchurch hero, that's for sure, right? A bit of a Canterbury hero. Yeah,
definitely.
Tonight we'll look at this new motorway, project from Warkworth to end up eventually in Whangarei. It's life-saving, life-changing. It'll transform the North, connect people finally to where the jobs are, and more than anything, it highlights, for me, the differences between Labour, Greens and Te Pāti Māori and National New Zealand First and Act. One group wants it, the other wants to talk. So let's go.
It's the Slam Dunk.
Yes, so National and its mates, they want the super highway, effectively connecting Auckland to Whangarei. They want it built now. Labour wants to talk more about it. And it's now being done at lightning speed due to the fact that it's being seriously prioritised by this government, big time. I've always said anything's possible with the government because they've got the balance sheet and they've got the power to actually cut through the bullshit and make something happen. But only if it wants to, and it's all about prioritising, right? Equally, it can use its size and the overwhelming burden of bureaucracy to stop a project in its tracks for decades, But no longer will the North face those barriers, which has sat it on its arse for decades, locked away from almost the wider economic debate in New Zealand. I firstly want to name some people and say congratulations. This Northland Expressway is happening now, fundamentally because of these people: Shane Jones, Winston Peters, Chris Bishop, Simeon Brown, and the change of government. 3 bidders have today been confirmed. 1 will be picked by the end of the year, and they will next year, in election year, crucially start work on connecting the motorway north of Auckland through Warkworth up to Whangarei. It is a massive deal. They're using the fast-track law passed by New Zealand First and Shane Jones. Understand the nuances here, election year. Nationals out there doing something? Yes. Labor say, no. Nationals Wellington-based Transport Minister Chris Bishop has his eyes wide open. He's not some small-minded parochial git who considers it a holiday highway for the rich to get to their batches. That's the politics of envy, and that's how Labor described the first part of the project that's already completed. Now, who would repeal that motorway? They still oppose this project. They claim the cost is unknown. That's true. They claim it will blow out. Entirely possible. And they want alternatives looked at. What alternatives? The train to Whangarei? Isaac, I'll see you on the train to Whangarei. Bugger it, we've been looking at this. Yeah, save me a seat. Yeah, I'll be on the horse and cart. There's going to be flying vehicles. Flying pigs? We've been looking at this since I was a kid. Every white cross on the side of the road north of Auckland tells a story. The awful Bryn-Derwins will finally be bypassed. It's a horror hill. I think about the 1963 Bryn-Derwin bus accident every time I go around the first corner heading north. The crash occurred on the day after Waitangi Day. This is crucial, 7th of February, 1963. A bus rolled down a slope in the Bryn-Derwin range, killing 15 people. The last corner coming down, the first corner going up. To date, it is the deadliest road accident in New Zealand. 1963 Waitangi Day celebrations in Waitangi. 1963. I know it's well before most of our time. And it had been attended by the Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh. Phil, he was there. A bus was chartered by the Māori Affairs Department to carry 35 passengers to and from the celebrations. All the passengers were Māori from the wider Auckland area, mainly from Ngāti Whātua or Kaipara, iwi. So we're talking about Te Mangere and Onehunga, places like that. Some were part of a Kabahaka delegation that performed for the Queen. So they did all this. The bus was owned by Waikato Services, driven by a 46-year-old man called Harold Parker. The accident occurred after 1 p.m, the day after Waitangi Day, when the bus had just finished a break at the summit of the Bryn-Derwins, and it started to come down the hill, southern face of the hill, and the brakes failed. And Parker attempted to steer the bus. He got it all the way down through the Bryn-Derwin Pass, and the bus left the road on the final bend of the hill, plummeting about 30 metres down the valley of the Pidoa stream. The Snelling family, who owned a farm nearby, they heard the accident. They were first to reach the wreckage. 14 people killed on impact. Another person later died from their injuries. 15 people dead. The remaining 21 injured were taken to Whangarei Hospital by 3 o'clock that afternoon. Following the accident, the Queen heard about it. She sent a message of condolence to the Prime Minister, who was Keith Holyoake at the time, asking him to, quote, convey Prince Philip and I sympathy to the injured and next of kin of those who have lost their lives in the bus. A commission of inquiry they stayed up that and looked at the bus brakes, and the brakes changed, all that sort of thing. But the road was a dog. The communities of Onehunga and Mangere were strongly impacted by the accident. Many of the passengers were from South Auckland. And tangi were held at Onehunga, which were attended by Keith Holyoake, Prime Minister, Opposition Leader Walter Nash. Seeing the difficulty that the communities had in arranging all these tangi, the government and the opposition agreed to co-fund the marae in the area. That led to the construction of Te Puia Memorial Marae in Mangere Bridge, still there today. Opened in 1965. That's why that was built. 60 years later, perhaps in the memory of these people, a decent, survivable modern highway is finally being constructed. Does Labor know the history of the bus crash? And if they did, would they still be opposing this? This is the seats that they fight for. So to this government, well done for actually doing this. It's an embarrassment that we've left it this long. It takes balls to commit to something so big. It's not universally popular. Costs are massive and unknown. Ministers are adamant fast-tracking will save time and countless millions in the process. It will. Simeon Brown's been instrumental in streamlining the process and cutting red tape and making it happen. These politicians should do this shit for us all the time. They should serve us like this. Find the quickest way to get something done and get it done. Time is up for excuses. We're sick of the delays. We're sick of talkfest and, I shouldn't say effing reports. We're over it. 60 years since those people died at the bottom of that hill. And now we're going to do it. We're over the workshops and the think tanks and the unlikely alternatives like, what's the alternative? What's Labor got? We don't have the population or the history or the environmental culture of taking trains through Northland. It's fanciful. It's total nonsense. I'm getting the train to Kaitaia. Said no one ever. The road, once fully completed, is estimated to be one of New Zealand's most expensive infrastructure projects, with the Infrastructure Commission estimating the project will consume $1 in every 10 spent by the government on infrastructure over the next 25 years. So it's going to consume the money. The Prime Minister's Investment Summit has also been pivotal in getting the right heads in the right room at the right time. I've been critical of Luxon. Said he's a bit of a goose over the time, but credit where it's due on this. He was the right man at the right time to get the people in the room. This government's been crucially open to changing laws and ways of delivery to speed this up. And at every step, Labour and the Greens, imbeciles, have opposed it. Change is not always easy. And as the first sod gets turned late next year, voters will be going to the polls. If they really don't support this, they can always send a message to Wellington and overwhelmingly demand Labour, Greens and Te Pāti Māori stop it in its tracks. Something tells me the opposite will take place. But this is democracy, and the option is there should people feel so strongly. As Shane Jones says, drill baby drill, or I say build baby build, because we've got to get on with it. It's been far, far too long.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so Dame Julie Chapman needs no introduction, but she's getting one anyway, because it's what we do here. The face of KidsCan. She set the charity up in her garage 20 years ago. I love these stories. People set something up in their garage and then it goes on. But this year, the organisation is experiencing a significant increase in demand for food. Orders up 15% compared to the same period last year. Chapman describes this winter period as the toughest time of the year for families in poverty. And as winter bites, KidsCan has heard from principals concerned about students slipping behind their classmates due to food insecurity and a lack of appropriate clothing to keep them warm and able. Participate is what they need to be doing, and they can't when they're hungry and cold. Provided with food and warmth, kids can do so much better. Say kids can, and they do. 20 years in business would normally be a celebration, but it's sort of mixed feelings for Chapman, who joins me now. Julie, welcome to the podcast. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Man, it's been a while. It's 20 years. It started in your garage 20 years ago.
Yep.
Do we celebrate that?
20 years of KidsCan. It's kind of mixed feelings, right? So I don't think you should celebrate the fact that a charity's been around for 20 years and the need's bigger than it was then, and I guess the disparities are bigger. But, you know, we are an organisation, we would never set up to solve child poverty. Our whole focus has always been making sure that kids have the essentials that they need so they can get to school and have a better opportunity to learn.
Why, if you look back 20 years, did you think you'd be here 20 years later?
I don't even think I thought about it back then.
Yeah. Why did you set up?
Set up after hearing reports in the media, talking to schools about the lack of things that kids had, children that were living in poverty back then, and just hearing those reports every year, especially at back to school time, and just being curious about, well, what is it that is stopping our Kiwi kids from getting to school or learning? And it's just such basic, practical things.
The issue probably seems so much smaller then.
Well, it almost seemed unbelievable that in New Zealand we had a situation where food insecurity was there, material hardship, so a decent pair of shoes or a jacket just to keep you warm to get you out the door and into the school gate. So I just felt like that was really unfair. Like, I had everything I needed. I didn't come from a wealthy family, but I had shoes. I had one of those hideous para rubber yellow raincoats.
You had the rubber. Did you have the tricks or the nomads?
Oh, I think I was nomads.
Oh, you nomads?
Yeah, I was nomads. A lot of tags.
Yeah, I was nomads. Yeah, nomads in the army bag.
Yeah, army bag with the what are the checkers on the
checkers. You drew them on yourself.
Yeah, and AC/DC.
Yeah, that's cool.
All of that.
And David Bowie sticker on it. So, and Michael Jackson. So so you did this. You could have chosen not to do anything. You did something. Now you look at your organisation. You've got 900 schools. Over 900
schools and 200 early childhood centres that we support and fund. And then more recently, we were successful in getting a government grant to fund another 300 centres that we've brought on so far.
Are people time limited, or do they, once they're on with you, they're on with you?
So we've always had the philosophy of once we start providing support, we never want to have to take that away. So we're very careful about, I guess, how we scale up our support so that we don't have to do that, because we knew talking about, communities where incomes are really low, there's vulnerable families, you need to make sure that you're in it for the long haul. And so
Can't leave.
we are in it for the long haul because it is about education and getting kids just to be like other kids through the provision of those essentials.
And have we seen results because of it? I mean, warm or full bellies and warm kids equals at least a chance to get educated, isn't it?
Well, it equals getting to school for a start. Look, there's so much research that shows that if you're hungry as a child, your brain doesn't switch on for learning. And I guess after 20 years, one of the things that is nice to see is we're getting a lot of reports back from young adults now who might have received our support 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and they're coming to us and telling us just how a pair of shoes or that food just made that little bit of difference.
I know. I've got a 14-year-old, and so when I go to his rugby at, say, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he hasn't eaten since midday. He's in the car with me. He's switched off. He's such a zoned in. Like, if he's fed, he can switch on. But if he's not fed, he is zoned out. I've never seen a kid so zoned out without food.
I think
we're
all like that, aren't we?
Well, I kind of think we probably are. But I see this a couple of times a week, because there's 6 hours a long stretch for a growing 14-year-old boy.
And then imagine, you're
Repeating
a kid that goes home and there's some days of the week there might not be anything in the house. So you're going home and you're not eating till you get to school the next day, and the impact that has on your learning.
Well, you're not worried at all about your learning. You're focused on one thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, 20 years. Do you have a long waiting list? I know last year was certainly probably your longest, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think right now, from a schools perspective, we've got over 70, maybe close to 80 schools waiting.
How long do they wait for?
Oh, well, see, that's the thing, isn't it? Because
kids don't eat until.
Well, I think there's ways and means, because you have got other organisations that also support, and you've got school lunches and all of that stuff. But we're certainly really the only organisation that does the kind of jackets and the shoes and all of those things.
Yeah, because you expanded and did also women's products and all sorts of things too.
Which the government now does, which is good.
Yeah.
But what we find is when schools come to us and they're on the waiting list, often it's teachers that are dipping into their own pockets to provide that food. Yeah. And teachers aren't earning big bucks either, so, doing that. I
go to the Hokianga, and that's where I sort of hang out, and so it's really poor.
Yeah.
And the teachers there will turn up at the start of the year with pens for 30, shoes, food, then it becomes daily. And so these are intergenerational families of, intergenerational unemployment, intergenerational poverty.
Yeah.
How do we turn it around? Or do we have to accept that simply you can't unless there's a major change in one person in that family?
I think that we do have really entrenched poverty, and I think also when maybe you're struggling to make ends meet and you're just trying to survive, education sometimes becomes less important. So I think, fundamentally, everybody needs to have a safe, warm, dry house to live in. And so I think one of the best things that we could do for people that don't have that is to make sure there is enough social housing. I think the
incomes aren't high enough.
Well, no, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, people talk to me all the time about whether families need budgeting skills, or my other favourite is they should grow a garden. I'm like, well, where?
Well, with the budgeting skills, I looked at some numbers the other day of working for families. Do you know the numbers of families that have signed up to working for families?
I don't.
No, I didn't either. So I went and had a look. 52% of New Zealand families take working for families, which is a tax transfer back effectively. It's alarmingly high.
Yeah,
it backs up what you say about poverty being it's so entrenched that the last government, Labour government, designed a scheme to give money back to them. Michael Cullen, it was an acknowledgement that wages aren't high enough.
Yes, and I mean, that's the thing. I think there's a lot of judgment about families living in hardship or poverty. You know, there's the old, they're down the pub, they're buying cigarettes, they're buying booze. Look, you know what? In my experience, it's just not true that everybody that's living in poverty is doing that.
It's
of course,
too generic to say that.
You can't make a sweeping judgment about a whole group of people, right? And
nor is it race.
Well,
you know.
no, and even if that was true, it's not the kids' fault. It's a lottery, right? The family you're born into is a lottery. And so the best thing we can do is support children's education to give them a pathway out of that rather than having them at home.
I was initially against food in schools and food, you know, I always thought as a parent, like you, I was brought up sort of middle class, and parents weren't wealthy in any means, but they always provided, and their mum worked only when we got to school at 13, that sort of thing, you know. And so I thought it was a parent's responsibility. Then I changed my mind a few years back when I just saw the need and saw the reach of organisations like yourselves, and I changed my mind entirely. I thought it's got so bad, poverty's got so entrenched now that it actually is hurting kids, and that's not good, and that's not a great start in life. So the state should do, or organisations like you should, if they can, do something.
Yeah, I think we've.
So I philosophically changed my entire view.
Good news.
Yeah.
I think, but it would be nice to think that we didn't have to do that, right? Because you're right. I mean, fundamentally, I think all parents. I haven't met a parent in 20 years that doesn't want to do the right thing by their child or want better for their child than they perhaps had. But when you're living in deficit every week, even when you're working at times, you know, it's very hard. And so we do need those safety nets, but we also need to work out how we can empower parents to have enough money and income to actually be able to make those choices themselves.
You know, I've picked up boys, you know, when my son was playing rugby league, I picked up 2 boys every weekend, and they came and stayed with us. They were from a family of 10 kids. And so we grabbed them because they're my son's mates and they play rugby league together, and they stayed with us for the entire weekend, and they were a joy to have.
Yeah.
But I realised Dad drove a bus, Mum worked as a kitchen hand at a Malaysian cafe, and they paid private rental on a house, 3-bedroom house for 10 of them.
Yep, which would have been expensive.
Hugely expensive, and it wasn't anything to write home about. And the salaries, they weren't out drinking and playing pokies and everything. They were hard-working Samoan family.
But then you're going to get the people who go, well, they shouldn't have 10 kids, and, you know.
Well, so that's what people did say to me. They should have 10 kids.
Of course they're going to say that. I mean, sounds like a nightmare to me, 10 children, but...
Well, I've got 4 and it's a nightmare.
But go them, you know, them, you know, like...
But it's just a different culture, and it's not for us to say.
That's right.
You know, there's the church as well.
Exactly, all of the things that come along with that.
Tithing, yeah.
I always, you know, people say, how do you, like, we're not here to solve child poverty. What we're here to do is give kids what they need to get to school and get an education. So that's exactly what we exist for. And I think the things that we provide, like the food, the clothing, the shoes, the health products, enable kids to do that. And schools tell us, like, literally, without it, kids would not come to school. Yeah,
I've seen it. I've been part of it. I'm a parent as well. So the current state we were in now, so it's just the beginning of winter, you got your appeal starting.
Yeah.
How do people help out?
Well, so...
Because now's the worst time, eh?
Oh, now's the worst time. Yeah. Winter is particularly hard. And, I mean, we're lucky that we've got amazing sponsors and partners like Meridian Energy and ASB and all these amazing companies that get in behind us. So, you know... we're really focusing this appeal on
it took years to get to that point.
Yes, it took years to get to this point. But it's been sustainable by having those lots of different ways of raising money. And the one that I guess we're really hoping people get on board with this for this appeal is signing up for $30 a month, which supports a child with food, clothing, health products, shoes, etc. for a year. And we need to raise enough money to support about 3,500 children.
So what do we need to raise?
It's $30 a month.
Where do people go to do that?
They can go to kidscan.org.nz to do that. I mean, this year alone, just to kind of give you the numbers, we'll send out probably close to 6 million food items from our warehouse. about 70,000 jackets, 55,000 pairs of shoes. And I think the cool thing is, for your listeners, when they donate, they can be sure that that is literally going to turn into a jacket or a pair of shoes for kids, and they're going to use it, and it's going to help them get to school.
Genuinely real. I've seen it too. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen what you do. The poverty now, is it worse than 5 years ago?
Well, just speaking even from the last 12 months, our food need in schools is up 15% on last year.
So we're worse than last year.
We're worse than last year in terms of school food need, and that's not because we've taken on more schools or
There's more unemployment.
significantly more.
There's more unemployment. It's tougher society.
Food prices up for 4.4%, I think, came out the other day on the same time last year.
So people's wages up 5%, are they?
No, I don't think they are.
And so this accumulates.
Yes.
So this compounds. So compounding interest on a good savings account is great too.
Yes.
But this is compounding interest and deficit, you see.
It is, and then you have all of the, I guess, the people that sort of prey on people that are living in hardship as well. Like sort of buy now, pay later.
They're still
the
around.
Trucks that go
They're still around?
I think they are. They're probably more under the radar now, but
I thought we executed them somehow.
they should have. They should
have been dealt to.
Should be illegal, right?
Well, it is a scam. It is a fraud. It is evil.
Yep.
I went to a house in South Auckland once. The woman had to lock her fridge because all the kids were there, and that truck was down the driveway trying to sell her nappies for like $40 or something, $50 or something.
Oh, look, I remember times when we've had reports of them selling, particularly food stuff is when you hear about that is really hard. Like tins of Milo for like $40 a tin.
Yeah, I know. But what? So why? But see, on the flip side is, we're part of an international community, and so our farms are doing really well. So butter, milk prices are milk powder through the roof. So I've got farming mates doing really well. So do we want that? Yeah, we do. So that flows through into our community. Do you know Fonterra makes? This is not a go at Fonterra, but 95% of their products are exported.
Yes.
Because we're such a small market, we're 5%. Yep. You could almost dump it in New Zealand 5% for free and still do really well, couldn't you?
Well, they're still doing I think they're still doing,
Milk
through government, the breakfast club, which is the milk and the wheat bix and that. So I think if you look at the food landscape in schools, you've got the government lunch program, you've got KidsCan, which does, 6 million plus food items a year of different types, bread, spreads, baked beans, all the stuff. And then you've got, they've got the Kickstart.
Kids shouldn't be hungry then because we've got government, we've got Yules.
Yeah, but when they go home, there's nothing in the cupboard. So a lot of kids...
People are going to school to eat.
Yeah, well, for many children, school is the place where they get the most of their nutrition because of what's going on at home. And it's not every day of the week at home, remembering that. It's, payday comes, the money only goes so far, got to pay the rent, got to do all of those things, and then there's a very small amount left for food.
There's a flat tyre, there goes your budget.
Oh, yeah.
There's no snow, there's no give.
There's no savings, there's no... so they'll buy food, but then there's not enough money to buy the amount of food to last for the week. So
how do we judge our poverty compared to international poverty when you look at kids in these war-torn areas and Gaza and that sort of thing? When people say, there's no poverty, Duncan, there'll be people saying this to us tonight. There's no poverty. No, it's not real poverty. Come get off the grass, mate. There's a welfare system and there's plenty of work here if you want it.
Yeah, I think you're not comparing apples with apples, right? Because when you look at, I guess what's going on overseas, and you do see those images of children that are, severely malnourished. It's true. We don't necessarily have that here. We're not living in a war-torn country, but what we do have is sometimes quite hidden poverty where there are kids going hungry at certain days of the week because incomes don't keep up. Yeah. We have high rents, we have all of those things. And I keep coming back to everyone deserves a warm, dry, safe place to rest their head at night, right? It's fundamentally, everyone needs that.
It's a privilege.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you say, you're talking about people and living and overcrowding and stuff.
It's horrific.
We've
You
got
can
schools.
see it everywhere now.
Well, we've got schools that tell us that they've got some families that are living in tents on people's front lawn.
Yeah, well.
That's not on, is it?
Well, but what about the homelessness? I mean, I see old people now. I see so many women homeless.
I looked at a media story the other day, and they had a drone shot in Christchurch of where a lot of the cars park up.
Yeah.
And it was literally quite out the gate to see it because
Like it was 20 years ago, isn't it?
yeah,
Remember we got
cars-
rid of that?
Yeah, cars everywhere.
So is it better to put them back in? National makes a big claim that great motels are empty again.
Well, I would just love to know, like, I don't think motels are a great place for kids to grow up. Like,
Better than
I
a
think,
car?
I would say better than a car, but also like coming back to that warm, safe place, to live. But I guess my question would be, kind of, where have they gone, or have they just gone more underground and they are in the parks and they are in those places?
I don't know. I mean, I think you're starting to see them though. I think you're starting to see it more visible now.
Yeah. I think what you see, like when you go down Queen Street, is you see homeless people on the street there.
Yeah.
And so that's a very visible thing. But
Well, the suburbs now too, though. You look at the suburbs.
and that's what I mean. That's where it's more hidden, because you've got families living in cars who they don't want to be seen. They feel real shame in their circumstance, and so they're not sitting on the corner in Queen Street or wherever. They are hidden in parks. They're hidden in places where you just wouldn't even think they are.
I also see lots of lean-tos. There's lots of cabins now being put in front and backyards, and sharing of bedrooms. So bedrooms being on shifts. You 8 hours and then I'll do my 8 hours and that.
Yeah.
Like the same bed, but
Yeah. I think they used to do that on your OE in England, didn't they?
Yeah.
But
But it
it's
was
not
well
ideal
understood.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Do you think we'll ever? Do you think it's solvable? Or do you think we just have to manage the size of it all the time? And
I think that over the last however many years, various governments have sort of tinkered around the edges with different policies, depending on where they sit in terms of their flavour. But, kids don't vote, right? So I sometimes do wonder whether if kids suddenly had the right to vote, whether there'd be more policies targeted at helping
well,
them.
if you look at it, and I look at this all the time, and so if you're elderly, there's a universal basic income, national superannuation. It's universal, and it's set at a level, and no one goes below it.
Yep.
If you're a child, there's no guarantee of any money coming your way because it's filtered.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing too.
There's
It's
no
like,
guarantee of anything.
how do you get the support or the impact without a whole lot of ticket clipping on the way
Well,
to
it has to
make the
go
most of the
through-
child?
It has to go through schools.
I think in 2015, they used to, like, when every child was born, they could access through KiwiSaver like $1,000 or whatever it was would go into an account, and then that would be invested so that when children turned a certain age, like, you could
Stop
put
that.
more money in.
Yeah,
But imagine
stop
if
that.
we could do that again.
But we see. I was lucky enough. I signed the kids up to KiwiSaver and got that $1,000 kickstart from the government. But National pulled that. They
Yeah.
dropped the $1,000.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like if we're
We
looking
took that
at,
away from every New Zealander, not just kids.
Well,
but
every
they
New
are kids when
Zealander.
they get it, you see. So
But that's right, and I almost think there's an argument for, like, if we want to try and help kids from an education or housing perspective, if we could set them up right from birth to have some kind of investment or income that
I
when
agree.
they hit 20, they can use it for certain things. I
Yeah.
think that would be kind of a cool thing
it's
to do.
KiwiSaver. I think it's.
It is KiwiSaver.
I'm not trying to be smart ass here, but I signed all my kids up to that,
Yeah.
and they've all got balances in there.
And then when they're
So
older,
actually
they
useful.
can use it, right?
Yeah, and my mum talks about. Before this interview, I had a chat to mum about this, and she says the family benefit back in the day, $6 per kid per week, made all the difference. She reckons. We went to farmers, Friday sales, and you got pajamas and warm clothes, and she dedicated that money. That money that came every week, she made sure that she spent it on us,
Yeah.
and it was always on warm clothes and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, there is research overseas that shows when you give mothers in particular
Yes,
more money, they spend it on their kids.
I know it sounds old-fashioned, but I wonder if something like that is
I don't really know how the benefit as such works.
It was a child family benefit. If each child was $6.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes, there were 3 in our family, 2 sisters, so we had $18.
And I think there is when children are born, there's a mechanism at the moment.
The Best Start.
The Best Start, which
$60
I think would benefit a lot of
It was universal
families.
It was universal under Labor. Every family got it for the first year.
And I think now it might be means tested at a certain
As
level.
it should be too.
Yeah.
Like if I'm, so $60 a week is actually quite a lot of money for some people.
Absolutely.
But for some people it's nothing. They won't even acknowledge it and recognise it.
Yeah.
It's like it's not New Zealand Super, I suppose. Like we pay millionaires $500 a week per adult. You have these kids that can't sleep because they're so hungry.
But that's the weird thing, isn't it? But then you've got great
30
organisations that support us, like Share My Super,
Yeah.
where you've got people who don't need it are actually putting it directly back into organisations like ours, which is pretty cool.
I saw that. I saw what they did there.
Yeah,
It's still.
it's good.
I looked at the money that's been donated. It's still low. Like this is a $25 billion a year transfer.
Yes.
New Zealand's biggest benefit ever. Like nothing.
It costs us the most, right?
Mate, I look at this stuff all the time. Obviously, it's part of what I've done. We spend $25 billion on New Zealand Super. The entire health system costs us $19 billion. The entire education system, $16 billion.
I think that's why they're having those conversations now, right, about raising the super age, because the bill's going to go up. Yeah.
Well, no, every year now it's $2.5 billion.
I kind of hope I'm still working when I'm 65. Otherwise, I'd get bored.
I feel 65.
But some people can't, right?
Yeah, but it won't affect us because we're close to that, you see. But it will affect kids down the track who are younger. But $25 billion a year of transfers.
That's
every
a
year,
lot, especially if it's more than we spend on education.
But every year, Nicola Willis turns up to put a budget together. So you've got $160 billion or whatever to spend. She goes, right, there's the first $30 billion over there. Super.
Yeah.
Health, education. There's not much left.
No, and I think, but that's the tax thing's interesting, right? Because again, I was listening to radio the other day, and they were talking about, would you?
Is radio still alive?
I think radio's a little bit alive sometimes.
You never know if you swap one.
A little bit alive sometimes. And like sometimes I've wondered, like, if I could pay some extra money, but it was specifically directed to something that I believed in, I would be happy to do that. Do you know what I mean?
There's lots of people say, why do you pay more tax? You're welcome to go and pay more tax.
Yeah.
Like, there are people, I see people saying that we should pay more tax. Go and do it.
Yeah. Well, they can. I guess they can if they want to. Right?
You can donate more to the government.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to donate more to the government.
No one wants to do that.
Anyway, congratulations on your success. It's a weird thing to say. What I mean is, congratulations on what you've done, because it was really necessary. And
being able to be there for that long for kids, I think, is something we're proud of. But we're not proud of the fact that the issue is bigger than ever, and the need is still huge, so the job's not done. No. It'll continue.
Will it ever be done?
I don't think it'll ever be done, but I would love to think that at some point we would see a reduction in the need for the likes of KidsCan, for sure.
Last question, how many principals ring you and say, we'd like to come off, we have solved it?
In the 20 years that we've been going, I think I can count that on one hand. And the relationships that we've built with principals, that are obviously still part of our program after 20 years. I think the thing that's most disheartening is that the conversations we were having 20 years ago, things are much worse for those principals and their families, so they've seen it firsthand for 20 years.
We'll leave it there. Donate generously. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Duncan.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Yeah, Isaac, it's pretty amazing to set something like KidsCan up in your garage 20 years ago and saying, do you celebrate it or not? I can see why she's a bit uneasy about celebrating it, because it's not a great thing to celebrate. Yay, 20 years of poverty, So, but yeah. Do you agree with food, and do you agree with that parents? I always used to think it was a parent's job to feed the kids. Yeah, I was a bit sort of hard on it like that, but then I sort of changed my mind and I saw the need and I thought, just feed them, someone feed them.
Yeah, I mean, situations are different for everybody, right? And it's a real. I'd say there's no real line in that sense. It's a real grey area because like Julie said, times are tough, and people, the paycheck doesn't always go the whole way, which is just how the world is kind of working at the moment, which is a real shame. But at the same time, is lunch for your kids a priority and that kind of thing? And it's really tough. And it's something that I am like, I want to have kids one day, and that's not something that I'm looking forward to, the day that I can't, provide for them or whatever. And so, I'm sure that everyone's struggling with it. It's real tough. But I think it's important for schools to be able to do something for those kids, because for some people, parents might not be able to afford it, but I definitely know there are also lots of situations of parents who spend their money on stupid things while also having kids at home, and send their kids to school with no food because they went to the pokies after they got their paycheck. Or whatever.
And you hear those stories. It's not always true of everyone, but it is true of some.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Why they got Sky TV?
It's a real tough line. It's a real fine line, but I think that it's important that schools should be able to provide something for those students and not kind of discriminate about their kind of situations.
It's not
in that
the kids'
sense.
fault. It's not the kids' fault.
No,
it's not the kids' fault until it's the kids' fault, and then we can blame them for something else. But it's not the kids' fault, Anyway, that's well said, mate. Well said. That's us. Thanks for your feedback and support. Get in touch, of course, through our social media at Duncan Garner Podcast, TikTok, Instagram. Flick us an email at Duncan@RoverNZ. I said thank you, brother. It's been a few days since we've filed something, so but it's good to get this one out there. I see our last one did quite well, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it did actually. I was looking at the numbers before. I can't exactly remember.
Not that we're driven by numbers.
Cinder Ardern?
30 odd K or 35K, something.
So, thanks,
there's a real deep-seated feeling against Jacinda Ardern in this country. You either are against her, or you're either with her or you're against her. And it's not just me and her against her. There's a whole pile of Kiwis. Are they too harsh on her?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the main thing is obviously about COVID and how that was treated. And so I'm not sure on the specific details. I've got one of my flatmates is studying law, and he was saying that something that they've looked into is whether or not the government actually breached human rights during the whole lockdown and
Single
vaccines and stuff
truth.
like that. And apparently they did. Yeah, apparently they did technically from like a constitutional level, not that kind of word. They technically did by like not allowing people to work.
Big word.
Yeah, it's interesting. I for one, in terms of like the lockdowns, I think they're getting mad at Jacinda about the lockdowns is silly. I think the way that they handled the lockdowns was fantastic, and it got us back into level 2, level 1 quicker than any other country.
Went too long in Auckland. Went too long. She refused to come to Auckland.
Yeah, Auckland was
she was
different.
a single
Obviously,
source of truth.
I was
single source of truth.
Yeah, I was obviously down in Christchurch. That was a bit different for me, I guess. But
mate.
I think yeah. The vaccine thing is a whole. The vaccine thing is a whole different question.
You were out bloody skiing and partying and shit, and we were locked up in bloody
I know.
Point Chevalier. Fuck. Anyway, I would say thank you to Isaac, but I think he's just given himself. He's taken his man card off him. I'm taking his. You're being expelled for the night. Thanks, Isaac. To my team, we'll do this again tomorrow. And remember, life's no dress rehearsal, no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth. And Isaac lived in the Wonderland in Christchurch during COVID. So get out and enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day. And take care, New Zealand. Ta-da.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.